Be on Friday.
Yeah, this records it. I've given that.
Pushing buttons.
There you go.
Yeah, my hands off.
Yeah. I will, she copied me on the first email. Thursday.
What? What's Thursday?
They say it's Tyrone.
That's the day that I'm not gonna be there, but you say no to what you're
Oh,
doing.
that's not you. Tom, good to see you. Making good use of good yellow brown.
We're gonna put him in the corner.
On the count, this is on loan from the count. We wanted to make some people feel closer to home, so we decided to go with that.
It's a simple meeting, I mean, my appointment's for when you can be blurry eyed.
Sure, agenda's on the top line.
All right, we'll call the February Boiling Springs Town Council meeting to order. Before we get started with business, we are joined tonight by Boy Scout Troop 117. The troop is based out of Boiling Springs Baptist Church and is led by Scoutmaster Daryl Bridges. If you guys will stand, we'd like to appreciate you for your service to our community. Thank you, gentlemen. First item up for business is the adoption of the agenda. Council have any comments or requests to pull anything out of the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
All right, motion is on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. And the agenda is adopted as presented. We have our Garden Web University update. Mr. Evans?
Good evening, everyone. Quick update for you tonight. Just thank you to those that attended the basketball game a couple weeks ago. Hope you enjoyed it. We appreciated having you in the house. It started us on a good streak, so we're on a 6-0 run on the men's team. Leads me into my next update. Big basketball game this weekend. We take on High Point on Saturday. They're #1 seed. We're #2. So should be hopefully a packed house. We've got family weekend. So you'll see busy campus, hopefully busy stores, busy storefronts as well, as that crowd descends on Boiling Springs as well. Tons of other sports, 3 different sports kicking off this week. We've got women's tennis start, softball, lacrosse, as well as all the ones that are already in season going on. And actually tonight, you timed it just right. I've got handouts that highlight some of our news articles, things like that, that are going on. So it just happened to fall on press day for us. So I've got these for you. That's all I have for tonight.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move to public comment. We do have some citizens who would like to speak. Mr. Stitzel?
Yep.
And 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Stitzel. I'm here as the owner and builder of the homes on Hillcrest Street, and the concerns that I've had trying to deal with some issues for over a year. Can I may approach, please? If you can pass these up and down. I'm gonna speak while you look at them. I tried to write something down so it's concise. I'm asking for the council's assistance to address concerns of the properties that border the new homes that we have built. 113 Hillcrest Street, which is just to the north adjacent to the houses in 108 apartment A across the street. In October of '22, I had a meeting with the code enforcement officer and the town manager at the time, Justin Logano. Our concerns were there's an old trailer in the backyard of 113 and an unkept condition in the front yard, in the backyard. And so we, tried to approach the owner of, and also the grass gets extremely high. We approached the owner about trying to help with the yard and was told that she liked it the way it was and not to touch it. There's all kinds of items in the backyard when you're standing on the first house on the back porch, on the back deck, that creates an unsightly appearance that when somebody's trying to buy a brand new house, it's very frustrating, and we've lost customers because of this. There's hazardous tanks in the back. There's a trailer that's been in the back that's unusable. In addition, across the street, one of the units has a pile of debris, and they're breeding dogs there. The dogs are hooked up on a chain, and every day, if you notice that there's water down at the bottom of the thing, he's washing all the dog stuff down there, and you can smell it, okay? I addressed those concerns in '22, and the response from the code officer when I met out in the lobby out here was that she knew about the property, and basically, that was your problem. You knew about that when you bought it, and that's how it was left. Here we are in January of 2000 or February of 2024, and then, by the way, I did ask for a copy of the audio and visual, the tape of our conversation, because I was so concerned about the response that we got. But needless to say, we put up a fence, at our expense, trying to hide the one side, and it didn't work out. I picked up in January. I made a call to the new town manager, Zach. I made him aware of the issue, and he said he was going to get with the new code enforcement officer and address my concerns. Obviously, I'm on top of it because we've lost potential people. Real estate they tell me that it's they're concerned about the unsightliness of that and the pit bulls and dogs and stuff across the street. I did address it back in '22 with the owner across the street because he's a dear good friend, and I respect everybody's property, and it was taken care of for a little bit, but it has returned to a state that it's difficult for us to perform a business. And I think you would like anybody to buy a house of that price would be considered are concerned about. Ago, I again reached out to Zach to say, hey, what's the status of it? And he said that they were going to they sent out notices, but his comment to me was, well, but you know how that is. I've extensively read your code. I've looked at the time frame that it should be 10 days. You send out a notice. If it's not taken care of in that 10-day notice, then you move to the next remedy.
Mr. Stitzel, it's 5 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Please
I'm sorry.
Please take 30 seconds.
Let me just finish up real fast. I'm sorry. This is obviously a big concern, and I've tried to go through the normal channels to take care of this issue. But ultimately, the code is the responsibility of the town council. And if you read under the general regulations in the code of ordinances, the town council, it finds it necessary to promote the quality of urban attractiveness and aesthetics of the town, the protection of property values throughout the town, the preservation of livability and attractiveness of neighborhoods, to promote tourism and opportunities for economic development for the town, and the attractiveness of the thoroughfares and commercial roads, promote comfort, happiness, and emotional stability and health of occupants in the vicinity of any abandoned nuisance vehicles. I'm asking you, please, to take your responsibility and take care of these issues. They're in the code, they should have been taken care of. I wanna be a good neighbor, I wanna be a good citizen and to the community, but we need help, with you, staying on top of the individuals that are responsible for taking care of those issues. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this to your attention.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, you want me to?
Oh, the free guy.
Thank you. And I guess you see pretty much what I'm dealing with. I think, thank you.
Do you,
I didn't need pictures, I saw it, I see every time I drive by there.
do you want us to submit that to the record?
These pictures?
If we can scan them in and add them
That's
to
fine.
the public record?
You're welcome to have them.
Okay.
I
And
mean,
we'll,
if
we
that
can,
helps you.
we can call you back and, we'll scan them in and put them in the record, just part of the minutes that we
Okay.
show them to council.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else, from the public that would like to comment on something not on the agenda? All right, next item is adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, Councilman Litton with the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Ellis with the second. Any further discussion there? All those in favor say aye. Opposed likewise. Consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to regular business, item number one, the Clearwater timber sale. Mr.
Yes.
Manager.
Thank you, council. Some time ago, Chief Phillips and I discussed selling off some of the timber on the Clearwater property that the town owns. It's approximately 18 acres. Chief Phillips went out and got some prices. Those prices are generic, they change every day, and so they're, prone to fluctuation in the market depending on what the sawmill has for that day. You've got an aerial there that shows you what the land is, or what the land looks like. This site is currently used for 3 purposes, and so, our Public Works Department uses it for leaf and limb, deposits, and this is also where we get the community garden compost. There's another site here where Public Works uses it to take, animal carcasses and bury those according to the state health code. And then there's a third site on this land, where the police have a shooting range that they use. The proposal before you today, as it's outlined in that staff report, is that we would harvest the timber off of approximately 18 acres of land while keeping the buffer between adjoining landowners. This money would then go into the town general fund, and staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parker. Questions or comments from council?
It's my understanding after the timber is harvested, we would replant.
Yes, I'm sorry, I left that off. We would. The, North Carolina Forestry Service would replant. And so they're looking, Nathan's gotten with them, and they're the ones who would do the replanting.
Did we notify adjoining property owners?
We did not, to the extent that they wouldn't have known with it being, in the public agenda, we didn't specifically call them. And with us putting up the buffer, I think that lessened the degree to which we felt like there would need to be notification.
I realize it wouldn't be required, but I was just curious. So, and we don't have any definition of what the buffer is.
There would be a 100-foot buffer.
Okay.
Other questions and comments?
I really think it's a prudent thing to do, the trees are mature, and, so I think if somebody else owns the property, I think they probably would be looking to harvest those trees, so I'll make a motion, we move forward with the order 10%.
Okay, that motion is on the table from Councilman Green. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Wood. Further discussion?
Do we have a timeline of when that might take place or anything? I'm just curious.
It is my understanding that they are ready.
They're ready to move.
The contract or scope is sitting in my office awaiting my signature.
Might be, of course, I guess that'd be up to them, but it might be good, they're not used to some big trucks coming out of that road. It might be good if we put up some signs there on the road, to watch the trucks or something enter the highway there.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Carries unanimously. Second item of regular business is park plan ratification and final adoption. Mr. Parker.
Well, when I started in August, we were preparing to put the park plan in the oven, and now I think we fully baked the cake and we're ready to pull it out. So let's bring this one home. We'll see. We are still always open for feedback, so if you see anything on this, we can revise it again. Just let us know, not a big deal. You've got the staff report there that kind of runs you through the general items. Big thing, as you read that narrative, they talk about the 6 pickleball courts that are being proposed. It also creates multi-use, multimodal paths. I think one of the big things for me, and I've mentioned this several times in different companies, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but I particularly like the ADA access to the playground. It's important to me that if you are someone with limited mobility or in a wheelchair, that you should be able to get from our current playground down to the ball field to watch your loved one play ball. Also, for me, the ADA playground is important. Access from this side of the park, I think is gonna be important as we look forward. But also, as a kind of reminder to everyone, this is a 10 to 15-year plan. It's not something that we're gonna put in overnight, I guess barring your further direction. And so, as we look at this, we can talk about how to phase this in, and we can look at that specifically at some of our council budget retreats in the coming years. If there are specific questions related to what's in or what is not in the plan, we can discuss those further.
Well, although I'm glad it's not in, I do think probably one of the questions we'll get is what happened to the splash pad? Because I was told, and I think it's probably true, that it was the #1 thing that was on the list.
It was the #1 most requested item. I have consulted with 6 municipalities, which did not include the city of Shelby, and I'll tell you why in a minute. All of them said do not do it because it is expensive to install. You have to either choose an automatic, and Mike would know better than I would, but essentially the splash pad is regulated in the same way that we regulate a pool. So either the water has to recirculate and be chlorinated and then repumped through the splash pad, or it would run to our wastewater treatment plant. As you all know, we do not produce our own water, so that would be water we purchased from the city of Shelby to run through the splash pad and then potentially immediately down to the treatment plant. I could see that not being cost effective. That's what the 6 other municipalities said, was it's just not cost effective. Because the YMCA has a splash pad feature at their facility, which is very close to here, that will be approximately $10 for a visit, for a 1-day pass to that. I confirmed that number today. And I feel like that's not cost prohibitive. The city of Shelby is also, putting in a splash pad, that's why I said earlier I've not consulted them. They're putting one in at Depot Park, which is, funded almost entirely by a state grant. That will be right next to the Mipolito where the Sasquatch is and the Rainbow Houses. Depot Park will be the continuation of that expansion. So Shelby will be installing the splash pad in the very near future. Those things made me feel like it was okay for us to say, you know, we don't want to incur the expense of putting in a splash pad. If we did want to put one in, there is an option for that. It is not shown on the one that you have, but I drew it on the one that I have. It's right next to where you see where it says long. If you move diagonally, southeast across that, you can see where we've got that little planter there. The splash pad will be right there in that bottom corner kind of quadrant of the park, right above where the existing playground is. That's where the splash pad would bump in. We can get cost estimates for that if you would like for me to. I can have them, so they will provide us with a costed document that will say, hey, this is how much it would cost if you want to go out tomorrow and put in this park. I can include the splash pad in that if you all desire.
But I don't desire. I mean, for a lot of reasons, other than the cost and the keeping the water, if somebody got to test the water, the liability issue, the safety issue. And I think it sounds good, you know, and I like seeing kids in splash pads. But, I think it would be, could turn out something that you plan to be real good that goes south real quick. So that'd be my response. So I'm in favor of at this time. Of course, 15 years from now, I'll probably be between here and there in the cemetery. I just think it's not prudent for us to pursue that. Those are my thoughts. But I do think we'll get some questions about that. It's fine. I mean, I just think we need to be prepared to justify our decision.
Further comments, questions on the park master plan? If not, is there a motion to adopt the park master plan as presented?
So moved.
Councilman Green with the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Litton. Further discussion? Questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Park master plan is adopted unanimously. All right, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got my reports over here. I was on, my computer went to sleep. I got really nervous because I said, you know, we had a really light agenda and I did not want to spoil you all. So I have prepared a 30-minute monologue here on my computer, but I'm gonna condense.
Will we be overruled?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna condense it to about 5 minutes. I've got a couple of things for you. If there are any specific items that you would like to discuss at the budget retreat in March, if you would let me know, anything specific, it can be whatever you want to talk about. We'll put it on the agenda. We're preparing for that now. I will be reaching out to each of you. I had a very productive meeting today with the YMCA. We are starting already on crafting next year's agreement. And so I will be reaching out to each of you to discuss what items we would like to see in the template that Ms. Fitch presents at our quarterly meetings. So making sure that we're hitting those benchmarks and that the information that the YMCA is conveying to us is information that, number one, we actually want to hear and answers our questions. Monument signs update that we received last month. So we priced adding a power meter to the monument signs. Those are sometimes called the gateway signs. It's the Welcome to Boiling Springs signs. I think I'm the only one that calls them monument signs. But they're the gateway signs. Putting in a Duke power meter each of those would be a total cost of between $15,000 and $20,000. Finding that cost prohibitive. We are going to install stoplights. These are, spot lights. We're going to install spot lights. These are solar powered. We've already completed temporary installation at Beaver Dam Church Road and West College. Mike and his team put those out, and we've looked at them. We like them. We think that they do a great job. When we looked back at the original purchase agreement, the original lights were not actually for nighttime viewing, and that disclaimer is on the original sign design. The cost of installing the new lights will be $55 per light, and so we felt like that was much more cost effective than the alternative. Mike and his team are to go out and bury those cables so that there's not a drop cord laying across the ground, but it'll look nice. There is potential for us to join what Foothills Regional Commission calls the Home Consortium. At this point, there is no fee or nothing required of you all. At this time, to sign up for that would allow the town, if we so chose, to access U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development money to subsidize the cost of building homes. It's a very intricate and detailed process. It is not one that we currently qualify for, so it's not anything that we would currently ever pull money down from. But by signing on to the consortium, the pot of money they can access for our region is larger. And so I thought it would be neighborly of us to sign on, understanding that we would never contribute any money to it because that's in the agreement. It says we would never contribute anything. So I thought that would be a neighborly thing to do because the county's already a member, as is the city of Shelby and the city of Kings Mountain. And I think Councilmember Green, you have heard of the Home Consortium, I believe, in your capacity on the Foothills Board, and maybe Mr. Tony from Foothills has been here before to present about it, but essentially HUD gives them money where they can subsidize the cost of certain homes. The developer has to agree to keep 20% of the housing units at a rate of 200% above the poverty line or less for 20 years, and that goes in a deed. If we ever were to get a home that qualified, we would never be on the hook to spend money on it unless you all voted for it. And so that would come back to you all. And I've made it clear to them that if the rule ever changed, where we would be on the hook for any money, we would immediately exercise our right to pull out of the agreement. System development fees, this has come up over the past month. This is something council passed in August of '23. These fees and the schedule were designed by a consultant engineering firm. The fees required of anyone who taps onto the water sewer system so that we can build a strategic reserve in the water sewer fund. There are 3 triggers that would lead someone to have to pay a system development fee. One of those triggers is a subdivision of land. Another trigger, and this is a long one, the construction, reconstruction, redevelopment, conversion, structural alteration, relocation, or enlargement of a structure, which increases the number of service units, or any land use that increases a service unit. So if you had a question about system development fees, that's what it's there for. It's to build into the overall fund for the system that we use for water and sewer. Tap fees are on the back end. That's what covers the cost of Mike's guys going out and installing the water meter, the cost of man hours installation at residential properties, cost of the water meter. System development fees allow the town to reinvest in the water and sewer system to create long-term sustainable water sewer system for years to come. And it is things like the system development fee that are going to fund the infrastructure projects that we have down at the water treatment plant that we would not be able to do if we had to rely solely on the water sewer rate. There is an update forthcoming on the Jerry Hensley Memorial that has not fallen by the wayside, and we are in the process of working on that. The cost estimate for both, so we've got one that's about $48,000, one that's about $38,000. We are beginning the process of soliciting donors and putting together a core group of folks who are gonna help us with that philanthropic effort. My Roosters update has changed due to a phone call that I received immediately before the meeting. Roosters update. It is on, we are in negotiations with that property owner, and you will see progress sooner rather than later. If I have to get into much more detail, we will need to go into closed session. So, because anything that would lead us and potentially take us into a situation where we would need to invoke attorney-client privilege or something that may be come up in civil court at a later date, Mr. Schweppe, I believe I'm correct on that. We would need to go into closed session so that you all could consult with Mr. Schweppe in your capacity as the corporate board, and he is our attorney. So we can do that if you also choose. Clearing up something I've also heard, I told you I had a marathon. Clearing up something I've also heard, we purchased the post office building and Statera from Hamrick Sisters Properties. And so that was held by Nancy Wages and by Kitty Hoyle. The post office lease is up May 2025. So I've gotten some questions about that lately. Wanted to make sure that we were putting that out on all the channels that the post office is not moving, and at least until May 25, but that will be at your discretion. I've had several questions about that where people thought that we bought the post office from the federal government and we were kicking them out. So wanted to get ahead of that. There was a question about the Broad River Coffee Shop building. I spoke with Mr. Smith today. They are waiting on an electrician. The panels that they have to have for that building, because the way that it's divided into 4 sections, have been on back order. But he told me that Jim Beeson has called the electrician, and that electrician has put them on the schedule. In March, we will need to hold a public hearing for you all to approve the final lease for Hannah's Coffee House. That has to be done per general statute 158-7.1, so that we can have a public hearing where you all tell the public that we actually don't need that property for core and essential town business. 2 more things. Are you all interested in having a town yard sale? That has come up, and whether we would want to have a town-wide yard sale, and to what extent that, we would want that to be. If we just said, hey, we're having a town-wide yard sale on Saturday, May, whatever, and whoever puts stuff out, great, and we just as the town do the promotional marketing kind of for that. We are open to suggestions and or thoughts on that. Does anyone have any suggestions or thoughts? If you are like me, you have lots of things that my wife considers treasures at home that fall into the one man's junk, one man's treasure category. So Madeline is a collector. So I would take advantage of the town yard sale. But, one more thing. Please keep Councilmember Thomas in your thoughts and prayers. He reached out to me at about 6 o'clock. His mother, Jean, is currently at Atrium Health Charlotte. She had a heart catheterization today, and she did have a blockage. She was unfortunately tied up with that, obviously with some health concerns there with his mother. She's currently in stable condition and will likely be discharged in the coming days, but he sends his regrets for not being able to be here this evening. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that is all that I have.
Thank you, sir. I think we started on this side last time, so we'll, Councilman Ellis.
We did, Zach, I attend the annual YMCA, it was held in Shelburne. Well attended. We were represented there too with all the different boards and the corporate board and so on. Also, this afternoon, we had orientation for the Ruby YMCA board, which I will be serving on that board. We're going to try extremely hard to represent the town of Willow Springs at the meetings and our part of the YMCA. And as usual, our staff, I say it every month, or every time I can say it, leadership from Zach all the way down. You keep the citizens of Bowling Springs, our police department, Mike, Nathan. I can't say enough, because I still believe we live in the best town in America, and I'm glad I'm living here. But, Mr. Mayor, that's,
Thank you, sir. Councilman Wood?
Yes, I attended my first meeting with the Broad River Greenway as an ex officio member last evening. And a couple of things, well, several things. Web Stop will be on, April the 20th. And then we have 4 other Main Street events, on April the 4th, and that'll be from 6 to 8, on May the 18th from 4 to 6, October the 10th from 6 to 8, and November the 2nd from 4 to 6. And also, there will be a work day at the Greenway on February the 24th. And one thing that was adopted last evening was a Greenway Council group activity policy. This is to prevent groups coming into the Greenway without authorization. So they're actually gonna say, any organized group planning an activity with 20 or more participants on the Greenway must obtain a permit from the Greenway administration, not the council. This says the Greenway Council. But they need to obtain a permit. And also that anyone that's on the Greenway property, they'll have to sign a waiver stating that the Greenway is no way legally responsible for anything that might happen down there. So this is just to clean up something that they haven't had before, and I think it's a good thing. So I think it was a really good meeting last night. It may have went a little bit longer than I'm used to. An hour and 45 minutes is a bit of a long meeting to me. And the last thing I would have to say is, I want to brag on our town manager. He didn't know I was gonna say this, but he's been very helpful to me, and I don't know how the town managers have been in the past, but he's involved in everything that he can possibly be involved in. He's the face of this community at so many things that he doesn't need to be at. So he goes way and above beyond the call of duty, and he works way more than 40 hours. And Zach, I appreciate everything that you do for this town.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Go ahead. Going back to the lights on the sign, we upgraded those lights or the solar part of that some time ago. After the installation, did we not?
So they're currently powered by batteries that are boat style batteries. Is that right, Mike? Yes, Mike says yes. But the problem with them is that they don't seem to be holding a charge. And then that is still the lights on the inside. And those are the lights that are not, it says they're not rated for nighttime use.
Okay.
There's also an issue, if you remember, when we installed those, that the seal portion was installed after the signs were created, so it actually pops out.
Yeah.
Some of those are starting to warp, and so we have seen, Mike's raised some concern about that as well, about the sealed section of those signs beginning to warp. As you may recall, the company that designed the signs went out of business. And so we've had a terrible time tracking down, who would be able to replace or fix those.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I came by the one on 150 last night before, and it was very visible. In fact, I thought, well, they've done something so that one, I mean, I could read it fine, and so it was very visible.
Was it still the old style?
I don't know. I could just see it, and I could read it very, very clearly in passing it, so I thought maybe something had been done since we talked about it to upgrade.
They went out there, and Mike and Billy and some of that crowd worked to try to recalibrate the timers on the lights to maximize, so it runs on a battery, so as that battery cell dies, we're trying to maximize that battery life. It's just that we're not able to, it just doesn't seem like it's when I go by some of them, they're on, and then I'll go by an hour later and they're off.
Well, that might have, I was gonna say, that might have been the case, because it was fairly early in the afternoon. In fact, I went over to Thelma Lou's, give me $1 for it, and coming back, I just happened to notice it, at that time, it was lit. And I'm sure Councilman Lee is that the guys are concerned and working on it.
Yeah, when I came by, that same sign, it was lit for 5 seconds and went off, so. It's not staying on consistently, and I understand it wouldn't stay on all night, and probably doesn't need to be. But, so how are we powering the light we're putting up now? I didn't understand that earlier.
Yes, it will be a different style of light so that it doesn't use as much power, is my understanding, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. I have to be very careful when we wade into things that are in Mike's domain, because I'm, like sailing down the Amazon in a paper raft. But yes, and so these new lights will have, they, don't use as much power, and so they will have a much longer capability of being on.
But you did say solar, right?
Yes, they are still solar powered. And it may be that we end up finding that we have to just replace the batteries periodically. That could be the issue. This is a much more economical fix, with it being $55 per light. That's something that I think we can play around with and still be within the budget. If I start spending too much money, then Rhonda starts breathing down my back, and I have to be careful tonight because she's right behind me. But, when we had, to put an actual meter out there, with it being 15,000, as the floor, the problem is, the old signs, we could mount the meter box right to the back of the sign. We're not allowed to do that anymore, so there would be a freestanding structure on which the meter was placed, and I think that would just, I don't know that that would aesthetically look great either. So, we're creatively workshopping ideas. But it is important, I think, I assume it's important to y'all, it's important to me, and it's important to Mike, that we get our bang for our buck out of those signs. We spend a good amount of money on those signs, so people need to see them when they drive into town. Because you can drive right past them if it's too dark outside and you won't even notice them. So.
Okay. I'm not opposed to having a town yard sale. I just don't know that if we have sufficient time to plan one for this year. But I'm not gonna be the one planning. So y'all have to figure that out.
Well, we had actually written down, Pat Litton will plan yard sale, so. We'll run through that.
I only want to have one in my.
Well, I think the original came in my life. I mean, I brought it to Zach, because Mooresboro and some other areas that it's been very successful in having community yard sales. You don't have to participate if you don't want to, but it just gets a lot of members getting stuff done. So Patty had brought that to the attention of Zach, and right along with that area, I meet with Zach every meeting before this meeting. And I bring a lot of things to Zach, and then he brings it to the board.
So you're responsible for all this?
Hey, the light's big to me. I mean, I was the mayor when we got there, we were so excited. We wanted good signs, and nice signs, and lit up signs, and when people come to Boyle Springs, coming through to see a sign, it's not like, Tommy, it has not, I got in my car the other night because I heard they lit up one of them. I went down there and it was beautiful, but by the next morning at 5:30, there was no light. So I guess the battery probably had burned out, so. But I know that's a little things about entering the town of Boyle Springs, we want to be proud of it. So I would like to see those town lights lit up. Excuse me.
That's fine, thank you. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just concerned, if we're gonna plan one, we need to do it right, that's my
Yeah,
only
I agree.
concern. And Webstock, so any comments about Webstock or planning that's coming next meeting, or where are we at on that?
We are right now, so today, and that's the thing, I left Webstock off my update, I'm sorry. We're gonna meet, we met this past week to look at the possibility of having 2 stages. And so one stage at the traffic light, one stage being the Gardner Webb Amphitheater, and how that would work. We're still discussing that. That seems like the concept that we like the best, with having one at the stoplight, making sure that we're utilizing that space, and that if we're gonna close that road, and we're gonna shut off the street there, that those businesses right there on that corner who are gonna be most affected by the street closure are at least getting some foot traffic from a stage being right outside, and they can see that as purposeful, not to mention the nostalgia and the cultural factor of it being at the stoplight. Kim Duran has said that the Broad River Greenway will do the beer garden. The exact placement of that is up in the air at this point. I personally believe that it will be in the same spot that it was last year, because putting it in the road is going to create some institutional hurdles with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. And so we heard that from them today. And then vendors would be down the street, like usual, and then there would be some type of shared concert between the amphitheater and the traffic light stage. Right now, the proposal is to have a 1 o'clock performance at the traffic light, 3 o'clock at the amphitheater, 5 o'clock at the traffic light, and then a 7 o'clock at the amphitheater. But I'm happy, as always, to ferry any comments back to the committee on your behalf.
And all of it will be free, is that the plan?
That is-
To the people coming through?
That is my understanding, as of whatever day this is, at 7:14. As of February 6th at 7:14 in the evening, my understanding is the entire thing is free.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Green?
Couple things, attended an MPO meeting, January 26th. They did, issue a letter of support for grant application that the town has, submitted. Good or bad at that meeting, I also was elected vice chair of the GLC MPO, and was crazy enough to accept it. And then, before I left the meeting there, I was asked to represent the GLC MPO at on another board called the Advancing the Plan Committee, which is all the MPOs and all the regional, we all have plans, and this is advancing everybody's plan, lobbying the legislature. And the only problem with this one is, it meets on Friday morning at 8:30 and it meets in Charlotte. So, that's my issue, but I did have an orientation Monday, and, I think there is value, definite value to the GLC MPO, and hopefully that trickles down to small towns like us, and I think that we have to be on boards like that. We have to champion our cause, because some of that squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the other thing is, we have to compete with those guys everybody in this region that be a part of this committee is competing for the same pot of money. So I think it's important that we're there at that table, so I do plan to try to make it to Charlotte at 8:30. And the other thing is, I do have a list here of, this is something else that passed out at the MPO. Some of you might not understand exactly what they do, but this is just a list of highway projects. That's mainly what we talk about is highway projects, road improvements. We've got a couple that are not on this list. This is a completed projects that were done, that they presented there. But we do have 3 projects, I think, that are on the list to move forward when funding is available, and I'll just quickly remind you of those. One is some improvements to the bicycle trail, but the main one is the redoing of Highway 150 from the traffic light to the Dollar General, the intersection there, which is a big one. They would redo every intersection. We've got a couple in that. But then another one that I'm more excited about is DOT and GLC MPO have agreed on one, and that's to improve 3 intersections on 150. And one of them is Hillcrest, the other one is Old Warm Springs Road, and the other one is at the Y, which are the 3 main ones we are concerned about. So that one seems to have a lot of support from the DOT and from the MPO, so. But they always add that caveat when funds are available, so. And that's another issue that they're really having to address with electric vehicles. They don't pay any highway use tax, so they're not generating revenue. They're really discussing ways to try to find some kind of revenue stream to supplant that, because it's more and more, you got hybrid cars, you get electric cars, and highway use tax takes a big hit, and that's where the majority of the funds for the highways come from. And something else. Oh, I was just gonna comment on Mr. Stitzel. You know, my only comment is enforce the code, whatever it is. And that's plain, you know, code's there, it needs to be enforced, and we need to enforce it. Because I agree with everything he said there, because every time I drive out that street, and I don't own any property there are some unsightly things there. If there's anything in the code that we can do to help with those, I think we should. That's it.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, citizens and stakeholders for coming out and spending your, Tuesday evening, it's Tuesday. Thanks to our staff, who always works with excellence and professionalism. You guys do so much, with so little sometimes. I mean this really for all that it's worth. I teach government and politics, and in this campaign season, I'm immersed in the politics of it all, and it really is refreshing every month to come and sit with this group of gentlemen who does not have any type of political agenda. All you care about is the good and wellness of Boiling Springs, North Carolina, and I just really appreciate what you guys do.
I did think, and I thought maybe somebody else might mention, but some of us, Councilman Litton, myself, Zach, and Tracy, and Chief Phillips attended the legislative breakfast at the Equestrian Center, and I think that was a beneficial meeting. The legislators were there, they gave us an update, we had an opportunity to speak to them, and there again, we gotta keep our calls out there, so that was very productive, I thought, so. Just wanted to mention that. So if you have an opportunity to attend that, it is very time well spent, I think.
But I did want to say thank you to the council. March 12th for our meeting in March, correct? Because of the primary.
Yes, we are delayed by 1 week.
Okay,
for
I just
our
want to make
March
sure
meeting.
that was put out there. And once again, thank you to Troop 117 for coming out. Mason, I'll see you in class in the morning. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Say aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, everybody.